Hello and welcome to this presentation of Change Your Life in 70 Days. I don't know when you're looking at this, but we're going to start on Monday, so I better tell you a little bit about what it is and what it entails. So who I am, my name is Gary Gedol. I'm a psychologist, state-registered psychotherapist. What's the rest of this? Okay, there we go. I'm 68 years old, which is being recorded in September 2025. So that's where I am at the moment. As I've said, psychologist, psychotherapist, specialist in systemic and family therapy with 25 years of experience. That's where you can see all the lines. I didn't go through the plan because you'll see what you see. If you want to have a look at the plan, it was there. You can go back and have a look at it, stop it is. So what the challenge is. So it's a framework, a structure, and a support system. So it's there. It's like an empty box that you can fill with something that you might find interesting. The image that I give is that sometimes you can find these advent calendars, which are just a big box with lots of little drawers that you can fill yourself. It's a bit that idea that I'm not going to tell you what to do or what your challenge is going to be. I'm here to give a framework, a structure, and a support. And it's 100% free. Now, at the end, you will see there is a book you can buy, the Change Your Life in 70 Days Journal book. Now, that book is available at Amazon. I don't know what it costs. I don't remember. So that is not free because it's a book. It needs to be printed. However, and I will mention further down, there is a free ebook, and everything you need to fill in you can actually download from the ebook. There are links to all pages that you might need to fill in. So you don't have to buy the physical book. You can just get the ebook, which I think Amazon actually costs you something, a few, 70 cents or something like that. However, there are other sites you can actually download it totally free as promised. It's free because as I was writing it, my son, and I take a lot of advice of my children, my son said, if you're going to do a free thing, then the ebook should also be free because you can. And it's true, I can make the ebook free. I can't make the printed book free. So the ebook is free and the other one isn't. Anyway, that's clear, I hope. What the challenge is not, it's not a program. It's not one of those programs that you see on the internet that pay for this, do that, every day, 70 days, you do this the first day, this the second day. Of course, it's not like that because it is not individual. It's not individual. Everyone creates their own challenge. Everyone creates their own timetable. Everybody decides what, even on a daily basis, they would hope to do, they plan to do, they would accept to do. It's you that creates it for yourself. I'm here just to support. And I have no control about what you do. And if you come on the internet with me and you interact with me and say, Gary, I've succeeded to this or not succeeded to that, I will more than likely say, well done, or no big deal, or whatever, depending on what you write. But it's not for me to control what you're doing. If you have other people that you bring as a support system, we'll talk about support systems later on. If you have other people that come in as a support system, that's great. They can tell you if they think you're doing well or not. Usually we have partners that are rather critical of us if we don't quite reach the level that we would like, but it's not for me to do that. Why 70 days? Well, it started off as an accident, as most things often do. I was planning to go somewhere and do something at the end of March, which didn't happen, by the way, and I thought that I wanted to lose weight and be a bit thinner to be able to go, and so I started to challenge myself, and because of the timing, it fitted 70 days. And so that's why it's a 70-day challenge. However, the more I look on the internet, the more I see that a lot of other people have gone for 70-day challenges and 70-day this, that, and the other. So it's a coincidence. It's not me that's followed anybody else's plan. But the more I look, the more I find that I'm not the only one. Now, it's short enough to not be too intimidating. That's also very important that you can say, okay, 6 months, a year. No. Most people, if it's that long, they're just not going to start. They're just going to say, there's no way I'm going to do that. So 70 days, 10 weeks, it's feasible, it's doable, it's possible, it's reasonable to think of. So that's already something. It's already a start. However, on the other side, it's long enough to change your habits. Oh no, there's another thing here. I'm going to translate the other one. Yeah, I've translated this from the French. I did it first in French, then I translated that. It's long enough to see results. That's what it should say. It's long enough to see results. I've just done it in French, so I remember what was actually written. You get results in 70 days, and I will show you at the end my first 70-day challenge, the results that I got. And it's also long enough to change your habits, and it's the habits that we're going to come to now. So why 70 days? Again, there was a study done by all these people. I'm not going to stop and read their names again. But the thing that is the most interesting is the median time to change a habit was 66 days. So if you do things for that long, it will become normal. And what I found when I was doing my challenges, my other challenges, I was having 12-hour days. I was coming to work, preparing for work, seeing my patient, writing reports and doing the other stuff, looking after the clinic. And as well as that, I was preparing for the evening, a theme to talk about on YouTube. And then I would go to the fitness, I'd go to the training for an hour. And then I'd go home. And then I'd prepare and give a talk for 2 half hours, half hour in French, half hour in English, on a subject that I had planned, worked on, and created a thumbnail for sometimes even. And it was 12-hour days, and I didn't think about it. I didn't think at the end of the working day, after I'd sorted out what I was going to talk about for the evening, the idea to go to the fitness for an hour, there was no question. It was just that was it. And I found that fascinating that I didn't think about it. I was tired, I was not tired, motivated, not motivated. There was no question. But there's also the fact that that was part of the 70-day challenge. And because it was part of the 70-day challenge, I just did it. Now also we have Rachel Hollis, who wrote a book called Girls Stop Apologizing, and she also had this idea of the 70 days, but for her it's a bit rigid. I think she said that if they broke the 70 days at any point, start again. I think that's a bit tough. It's not the way that I function. You know, if you miss a day, you miss something, you don't quite make whatever you plan, it's not the end of the world. You just carry on and carry on and carry on. And the mass of getting it right, based compared to hopefully the small bits of not getting it right, will still give you some really interesting results. That's the way I think about it. So what are the steps to change? This is quite a long chapter. It goes on forever. I don't know how many pages of this there are, but whatever. Scratch, itch. So is there a habit that I wish or need to change? Well, wish or need, that's very different, because sometimes for health reasons, problems with lungs, cancer, cirrhosis of the liver, obesity, and other things linked to that. These can be reasons why you must change, because, or even if you're not succeeding to work properly and you're in fear of being sacked or demoted, you know, there are things that we can change, that we have a certain pressure, or just the wish, I'd like to be thinner, I'd like to live longer, I'd like to be healthier. So that's good. How can I quantify my goal? It's very important to give some figures, some numbers, some weight, some distance, something that you can say, okay, I'm getting nearer. How much have I done today? What am I up to? How am I making it? Just the idea, I want to lose weight, I want to be fitter, I want to do this. It's a bit vague, and it doesn't help if you can't see it. The idea of having a path, you can see the image of the path, is that the path, you can see where you are. You could mark the path. You can see the distance of the path, how long it is, how much you've walked to this point and that point. And when you do something that's quite long, and 70 days can seem quite long at certain points, it's good to be able to look back and actually quantify where you've come from and what you've actually succeeded to do. So it's really important. What are the benefits of changing the habit? Well, that should be obvious, but it's good to think about them and to write them down and to note them, so that you can sometimes, when you think, oh, is it worth it, you can look back and say, well, that's why I'm doing it, that's why it's important. Any inconveniences? Look on my computer, don't always see very well from this. Any inconveniences? Well, there's always inconveniences. There's always things that you like doing that you can't do, or you'd like to do and you can't do it, and things like that. But it's good to reflect on them so that it's not like a surprise that something this uncomfortable happens. Why do I have this situation? I'm a psychologist, I'm a psychotherapist, I'm a family therapist, so I look to see why people have certain habits, behaviors, why they do certain things. Now, many people pick up habits and behaviors just from other people and just from what is normal. 15, the whole class of a school would go to a pub. This is in England. I know in America it's not going to be the same thing. I'm talking about my own experience. They go to the pub because they're not allowed to, but the pub lets them in. And they buy beer, which they don't like, but everybody is buying beer. They drink beer that they don't like. And then after a few months, they start to get a taste for it and they start to enjoy it. Same thing often happens with smoking, or even families that smoke and they live a cigarette around, and the young person starts having a habit of smoking sometimes because he's stolen cigarettes, or just because everybody's smoking and it's no big deal and that's sort of normal in the family. So there are things that are just habits that one pick up, not for any particular reason, but there is also people that have habits and have behaviors that try and compensate for something else because of a trauma, because of a stress, because of a loss, because of other things, and that's why they keep doing it, because it actually helps them cope with something. And we need to have a look and see what they're trying to cope with. So if we try and take that crutch off them, they're not going to fall over because they need that, because they've got something like a broken leg emotionally or psychologically. What are the benefits of this behavior? You need to be careful, because every behavior has a benefit and has a use. I mean, smoking, I noticed smoking was very social, and the fact is, do you want a cigarette? Can I have a cigarette? It's a way to open a conversation, it's a way to share something, or buy a round of drinks for people, etc., etc. I had a patient once that would spend forever eating dinner, and would eat copious amounts of dinner because it gave him an excuse to stay at the table, so he had more time with his family. And before he realized that, he did not know why he was eating so much, why he became obese. And when he spoke to other members of the family, he said, well, let's spend forever eating, and he's having 2 or 3 plates of food. And when I sort of like investigated it, it was actually just a pretext to stay at the table with his family, spend more time with them, because after that they went their own separate ways and did their own things. So, you have to look at these things. How can I compensate for this? So with him, what we did, we organised some family time together that was not at the table, not eating, and it worked great. But unless we actually found out why it was and what were the benefits, then you can't find a compensation. What would be the challenges to change? Well, things like that we will talk about later, social support systems or other benefits to do that, or the difficulties, for instance, people that have a lot of money to eat healthy. Sometimes it's very difficult for them because just financially to eat healthy food might actually be more expensive than junk food. Anyhow, we'll go on with that later. So how often during the day I need to make a firm decision to change? That's something that we will look at actually later in slightly more detail, but the simple answer is as many times as you do that behaviour, or as many times as you would like to do that behaviour. And we'll look at that a bit more in detail. What help can I find to put into place to support change? Now that's something that everybody, they have different groups. That's why things like the Alcoholics Anonymous exist and other self-help groups exist. So if you could maybe think about how you could create a group, either directly with people or on the internet. You could use my channel as a place to advertise. Nobody should make any money from my stuff. I don't make any money, you don't make any money, nobody makes any money. But if you want to put together a support group for something, and you just charge for your expenses that are very clearly expenses, like renting a room or something, that's okay. But please don't, if anybody asks you for money to join a group linked to the 70-day challenge, you just say no. Gary said, no, this is not a money-making concern. Don't matter how much time you spend. If you do it because you want to do it, you want to share. And if you want to charge money for it, then you don't do it not under my name anyway. What strategies could I put into place? It's really worth to stop and think and maybe ask other people's advice for strategies, for ways to sort out, like the strategy to have time with the family outside of the meal, things like that. What associated situations or people will I need to be wary of? This is something that, when you think about it, is obvious. Come on, Bob, let's go down to the pub and get pissed. You want a cigarette? How about, there's a new shop open, let's go and do some shopping. I'm sure there's some beautiful dresses that would suit you so much. There's some new shoes that have just come out, etc, etc, etc. There's let's not go to school today, I've got a much better idea. There are people that are dangerous. There are situations that are dangerous. Let's just go to the casino, you don't have to spend much. I'm at the casino, you put your hand in your pocket, your hand in your pocket, hand in your pocket. Things like that. What alternative behaviours could I replace negative ones with? Well, the most obvious, people that give up smoking cigarettes. They now have cigarette alternatives. They have nicotine patches, nicotine chewing gum, other things like that. People that like a drink, they can replace their usual drink with non-alcoholic drinks. There are quite a few alternatives to things that one can do that give us at least some of the same pleasure and fill some of the same needs that we have before. What rewards can I offer myself to reinforce some motivation? That's really, really important. For instance, people that stop smoking, I insist that they make a calculation of how much money they usually spend on cigarettes, and then any difference between what they actually spend and what they budget to spend, they put that money aside, and after a few weeks, it usually amounts up quite quickly. They take themselves either to a nice meal, or they invite somebody out, or if they're really well motivated, they wait till they have enough money and they go on a nice holiday with that money. So that sort of thing that makes a lot of sense. Or if you're losing weight and you want to buy yourself some nice clothes, etc, etc, etc. The steps to change. Well, it's all steps to change. With those in mind, do I have a realistic goal? This is really, really important. Now, I support people in dreaming. Dream big. Just don't say, I can't, or I can, or I can't. First of all, you dream and let yourself dream as big as you want. I want to be a millionaire, I want to write a bestseller, I want to be the most handsome, beautiful, attractive, whatever. Doesn't matter. Dream as big as you want. And then once you've got the dream that says this is what I want, then you try and see how much it's realistic. Realistic with the resources you've got, the resources that you can get, at the time scale that's reasonable. Now, the instance that I give is that last spring, I was coming home on a Saturday morning, and I was blocked by a marathon that runs every year in Lausanne. And then when I was thinking, what am I going to do for my challenge? Because I do a challenge every time I put a challenge into place. I do a challenge. I do this with you. I walk the path with you. I don't obviously do the same challenge. Everyone's got an individual one. But each time I'm going to start a new challenge, I think, what am I going to do that's my challenge? The first challenge was losing weight, getting thinner. The second one was getting stronger and going more often to the gym. And this time I decided I'm going to do a marathon. So the first thing I looked at the marathon. A marathon sounds great. How long is a marathon? It's 40 kilometers, which is 30 some miles, which is like, so forget that. So I thought, well, that's not reasonable. So how about 20 kilometers? So that sounded more reasonable than I thought. But how long did it take to do 20 kilometers? It takes a number of hours. There's no question about that. And I thought, it's not a question of one day in my life to do that. If I'm going to train for it, I need to put aside at least once a week the time to do the marathon. just to train for that amount of distance, that amount of time. And I thought, well, that's not realistic in my life. So 20 kilometers, that wasn't realistic because of time, the time it would take me, and I've got so many other things to do. I work full time, I do YouTube, etc., etc. So that's not realistic. So I thought, okay, how about 10 kilometers? Is that feasible? I thought, well, 10 kilometers in principle, for the time it'll take, how much investment it'll take, that is feasible. However, I'm not very fit. As I say, I'm 68 years old. I've got bad knees, bad legs, and bad back, and things like that. And I thought, for me, in 10 weeks to be able to do a 10-kilometer marathon, maybe it's asking too much of my body, and it would be too much of a stretch. And I thought, well, what can I do? I thought, I know what I can do. I can do something would be a partial success. The partial success in the first 70 days, the first one, between now and December, would be 5 kilometers. If I could be satisfied with 5 kilometers, then in January, because I do 3 a year, if you miss this one, you can do another one. Or if you're not satisfied, join me again in January. So in January, from January to the middle of March, I'm going to go from 5 to 10. So that is then realistic. It's realistic that in 2 lots of 70 days, I can do 10 kilometers, and within my timing, my organization, is totally possible. It's doable. So that is the way that I work on realistic goals and full success and partial success, and the motivation to keep continuing. The motivation for me is to do the YouTube channel, so that keeps me going, because I'd be too ashamed to give up. But you need to see what you can do for yourself and how it can work and how it'll be good. What is stopping me from starting towards my goal? Well, sometimes it's just difficult to get started. And I remember somebody that was a runner that would do jogging every day. He said, sometimes I'd say, I'll just put my running shoes on and I'll just go out for 5 minutes. And to put his running shoes on and to go out for 5 minutes was enough, because once he was outside, he just carried on. So that's something to be aware of, that getting started, and that is why there is the 70-day challenge. That's why it's going to start next Monday, Monday the 29th. So be there or don't be there. But if you want to do something, this is a good way for you to organize yourself to do it. How can I remove the obstacles? Well, the biggest obstacle is usually yourself, but there can be other things, other practical things for you to deal with and to look after. And so that's something for itself. When do we start? Monday the 29th of September. Be there. It'll be good. And if it's good, it's not my fault. So I promised you before, I talk about how often you need to decide to change a habit. Every time you do that thing that you want to change, or don't do the thing that you want to change, that's it. So if it's to do with eating, then you either eat 3 meals a day or 5 meals a day with the snacks. So that's 5 times a day. If it's smoking, maybe you smoke, 9 times a day with a morning coffee, coffee break, after dinner, etc., etc., a few in the evening. So if you want to stop smoking, you have to decide 9 times in the day to stop smoking. Now, talking about complete success or partial success, maybe out of those 9 times, there's a few cigarettes that you don't feel ready to give up on. And you say, okay, I'm going to only smoke this, and this cigarette. Because each cigarette is different. It's for a different reason, different purpose, different benefit. Don't let anybody say that all cigarettes are the same. No, they're not. Some of them are social, some of them are pleasure, some are relaxation, some to deal with stress. It's much more complicated than that. But if you want to give up smoking and you smoke 9 a day, some people smoke 20 a day, every time you reach for a cigarette, the decision is made. I remember when I was a student in England, we had a piece of theatre, I think it was Epsom Downs, and I was supposed to smoke a cigar. I didn't smoke, but the director was sort of like falling to pieces if I didn't smoke something, because it said so. So I bought some cigarellos for that, and because if I would have left them in the theatre, it would disappear every time, so I brought them home with me. And I remember one evening I was studying, and I reached for this tin of cigarellos, and I said, start that, you'll never finish. That was the decision. But fortunately, I only had to make it once because I hadn't started. But that's something to go forward with. So, and the other thing is, when you have something that you're not doing, like going to the fitness, If you want to go to the fitness 3 times a day, you have to make the decision. 3 times a week. You have to make the decision 3 times a week to go, because that's the way it works. What's next? The zone of comfort, that's what I call. Now, people that come to see me, unfortunately, there are different areas, and the one at the centre is actually negative. Is when people do less and less and less, when they're in aggression, depression, helplessness, and life is like going down a deep, deep hole. And if you feel that you're in that, then please get professional help, because it's very difficult to climb out of that hole by yourself. Some people need antidepressants. I don't like antidepressants. I'm a psychologist, not a psychiatrist, but people can need help, can need support to get to go down, to stop going down. Because once you stop going down, you end up in the homeostasis. You end up in a fixed space, and that's the comfort zone. And everybody lives most of the time in the comfort zone. They do enough to keep going. They keep the house reasonably clean. They eat reasonably well. They go to work as much as they need. They do enough work to stay in their jobs. Most people, they succeed to keep a status quo in their lives, which is fine, but obviously it doesn't take them forward. The next level is what I call the zone of discomfort. And that's when things start to advance in positive. So when you go outside of your comfort zone, you don't have to go very far out, but the moment you're outside of it, the moment you're making an effort, the moment you feel the effort, and that's when things start to change. Now, they will change, and they'll change consistently, and they will change gradually. But from time to time, it's a good idea to give it a bit of a kick, a bit of a boost, and to go to what I call the zone of suffering. And that's when really change happens, and that's when you really push yourself that extra mile, that extra bit, just go a bit further. I remember when I was very young, and my brother picked me up after I came back from boarding school, and he said, "Come on, let's run." My brother was 2 years older than me, and he was a sportsman. And I was a big fat pudding. And it's like, "Oh, this hurts, that hurts." And he turned around and says, "That's when it starts to do you good. It's only when it hurts that it starts to do you good." And he wasn't wrong. He wasn't wrong. However, you need to be careful is not to push it, because it's very thin. You notice it's quite thin the way I've drawn it, it's created this. There's the zone of suffering, because if you go past it, you go to the zone of pain, and that is dangerous. And that's when a lot of people, sports people, often do themselves real damage. And that's really not, you need to avoid that. And you can also do yourself psychological and emotional damage by pushing yourself too much, and that's where burnout occurs. It really needs to be careful about. However, the good news is if you keep pushing yourself, everything grows. And the zone of suffering, after a while, just becomes the zone. Is that how I change that? I think that's right. I can't remember. I think that's right. There's something a bit weird about that. There we go. It becomes a zone of discomfort. The advancement's positively. So that's suffering then becomes that, because if you know about fitness and training and muscles are painful, and then they grow, and then you can do more. And many things you can do more, you can do better if you keep working at it. So that's that bit. I promised you that I would tell you about the success I had in January. I started off, I've not translated this into American figures or English figures or something like that. 99 kilos, it's 14, I can't remember. It's too tight for that. You need to work it out, but I went from 99 kilos, I think it's 220 pounds actually, something like that. And I went down to 92 kilos, so that was nearly 10%, and 110 on my centimetres went down to 99, so that's a good 10%. So it was quite successful. I stopped after the 70 days, because that wasn't the goal wasn't to be doing that forever, because that's not the idea. The idea is to improve yourself, and on certain things you continue. And that put me in very good stead for the second 70 days after I had a pause. But it was much more to do with fitness and becoming stronger. And so the weight wasn't as important, and even the waist wasn't that important, because it was growing muscles. It's weird when your waist actually doesn't go smaller when you do a lot of exercise, but it still worked. So the form. Now this form exists obviously in the physical book, but there is a link to this in the free ebook, so you can download it and print it out and fill it in, because it's really important before you start, so you know where you're going and where you're at. So let's start with this. It's written for the 27th of April, which was the second challenge, but I'm filling in actually what I did for the first challenge. Was the first idea was to lose 5 kilos or 5 centimeters. I lost actually almost the double. My low drain was much lower. The benefits was my health in general, but there's also a bit to do with luck, a bit to do with ego. My motivation at the time to share my project, because that's what I do. That was what I mean. Yes, for my health, but also for to show people to help that they can do that. The benefits are not making that. Well, I work full time, so the time and energy to go to the fitness is tough, and I love to eat. So not eating, watching what I eat, dieting, fasting, and all those things was really not comfortable, but you know to do that's a challenge. And what would be the challenges? All the challenges, as I say, is that the benefits. Okay, the benefits will be more time to relax, and I love to eat. And the challenges is to go to the gym and to go on a diet. So that's the opposite of each other. So I'm reading this, I'm looking at that, and it's not very clear. So how often do I have to decide? So the fitness was 5 times a week, and sometimes would even go 7, because I'm an idiot. A bit motivated. And diet, it says 3 times a day, 5 times a day, 5 times a week. I actually don't usually eat breakfast, so it was actually less than 3 times a day. 5 times a week. Why 5 times a week? Is because I use the 6 F's system. The 6 F system I like because it all begins with F. It starts off with fasting, and then famine. So fasting obviously is a water fast. There's no food at all. Not partial fasting, full fasting from Sunday night till Tuesday afternoon when I have my first coffee. Fasting, famine. Famine is just a diet, not eating any carbohydrates or anything fattening. Then there's fish and flesh, which is from time to time you need to eat some protein and not just eat very, very light. And then is feasting. That's why it's only 5 days a week, because for 2 days a week, at least 1 day, if not 2 days, I feast, which means that I allow myself to eat more and to be more relaxed, especially Saturday night. I usually have an evening with my son and we watch videos, and I treat him to a feast. And I don't like the idea of cheat days. I think it's very, very psychologically unhealthy. You're not cheating. You are feasting yourself because you have succeeded the other days of the week. And of course, the last one is fitness. So that's that. And for the fitness, I have a series of exercises that I would follow. So that explains that. We go up. Which people could help? Well, I help myself. I'm quite independent like that. I'm my own best friend, my own coach, my own therapist. I have a very good friend I talk with sometimes, but most of these things I do by myself. But you don't have to. You don't have to. You've got me and hopefully other people that will help you. How often do you keep track? Well, if you're weighing and measuring yourself, don't do it more than once a week. If you're a woman, maybe even once a month, because you've got to be aware of your cycle and how things change in that way. There is in the book high dreams and low dreams for each day, but that's not necessarily weighing and measuring yourself. It's like I choose to go to the fitness today and to do this, or I choose to whatever. Only smoke 4 cigarettes today. So what the rewards? Well, the first reward is always to share with you and to say, hey, this is great, let's go and do it. And then during the 7 days, I have my feast day on Saturdays, which I always look forward to. It's always nice fun. And at the end of it, especially in January and the end of March or April. I went on holiday because I had full success, but I still went on holiday for partial success. And the date, that's actually almost correct. It's close. It's close. It's close. As I think it shows. So there's that. So there we go. So there is the book 70-Day Challenge Journal, which you can buy from Amazon for, I don't know, I think it's something like $8 or something that's equivalent. I can't remember how much it is. Sort of like the minimum to make any sense. And there is the free ebook which you can buy, which you can download. You don't have to buy because it's free. If you find it's on Barnes and Noble and all sorts of weird little sites. Amazon, I think, for the moment still charge something until they suddenly realise that it's free everywhere else. Hopefully we'll force them to make it free at some point. So there you go. Monday 29th of September at, I can't remember what time in the evening, I will be online waiting for you to tell me that you have started the challenge. And I hope it all works. Thank you for your attention. I'll see you then.